Okay, thank you very much. We are apologies for the delay in getting going. We had a bit of a technical problem there, but we have it solved now. So just a welcome to the informal group of MEPs on the legalisation of cannabis for personal use. Today is the first event that we've held. And it is a discussion held in two different panels. The first panel is a discussion among members of parliaments and officials from countries who are contemplating and looking at the legalisation of cannabis, some more developed than others. And in the second panel today, we are going to talk to people who have been involved in countries where it has already been legalised. And we're going to discuss with them what their experiences were and to see what we can learn from those countries that have already done it. Because countries who are going down this road at the moment are facing numerous problems. So today we hope to discuss that, tease them out and see can we find solutions. So the group is made up of members of the European Parliament from 5 different groups, and I'm going to go to 2 of the members here today just to give us a short introduction. After that, we will go to the European Parliament Research Service, and they're going to give us a rundown on a study that they have done on the situation as it pertains to each country when it comes to legalisation. So first off, we'll go to Doreen. Introduce yourself there.
Good morning, good evening, good night to some of our participants. Dear colleagues, dear all. I'm very happy and proud to be part of the movement started in the European Parliament to create the possibility of harmonisation and legalisation of cannabis use for recreational purposes. I've always wondered why cannabis use is illegal. People consume many products for recreational use and they are free to do so. Alcohol, sweets, candles, movies, and many, many more goods and services are used for recreational purposes and authorities do not mind it at all. Some of them can be dangerous for your health. Take, for example, wine. Everyone above a certain age is allowed to consume wine. Can you imagine being in a situation where you are allowed to take 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but where the wholesale of wine or the producing and supplying of wine to individuals or bars and restaurants is illegal? Of course not. It sounds ridiculous, and it probably is. 15% of people between 15 and 34 years of age are reported to use cannabis on an average. In many countries, like the Netherlands, you are allowed to drink a glass of or multiple glasses of wine. Authorities allow you to consume cannabis, even though officially this is still illegal in the Netherlands. But you're not allowed to grow or sell cannabis. This situation is not sustainable, and that is why my government in the Netherlands is running a cannabis supply chain experiment. This pilot project is expected to begin formally in the beginning of next year. The objective is to explore a closed cannabis chain so people in the Netherlands can buy homegrown, quality-controlled cannabis that is to be sold in the famous coffee shops. A report of the experiment is expected in 2028, but will probably arrive 2 years later due to startup problems. The experiment is regulated by the Coffee Shop Act, which was successfully passed through Parliament in 2020. It will take place in 70 municipalities, and growers need to adhere good manufacturing practices and food agricultural practices. In the Netherlands, we have more than 550 coffee shops in 102 municipalities. In the meantime, we in Europe are working on legalization of cannabis in all member states, so the free movement of goods can be applied to the recreational use of cannabis. In 2020, 1 million cannabis offences were reported. You have any idea how many man-hours of work goes behind a figure like this, and how many euros we can earn by not doing so? It makes sense to stop wasting taxpayers' money and quit meddling in consumer choices of adults, because there is no risk, no real risk, not a risk that an adult cannot manage. If we want a society of responsible people, we have to treat them in a way that stimulates responsible behavior. And that is why we need to legalize the recreational use of cannabis. I'm looking forward to the discussion, especially, I think, the cost aspects and the experience of the legalization of cannabis in other countries. I'm especially interested in, and I'm looking forward to a discussion, and I'm looking forward to the harmonization and legalization of cannabis as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doreen. We're going to go over to our next speaker, MEP from Germany. Nicholas, introduce yourself there.
Thank you very much. My name is Nicholas Niemes from the Greens in Germany. Yes, we have come together to discuss the legalization of recreational use of cannabis, which is or should be a useful tool in order to tackle two or multiple problems. One of them is, of course, the question of protection of minors and young people, so that they don't get into the contact with drugs as early as maybe today, and that they get help if need be, because, of course, we want to protect those, and it is a health question. And on the other hand, we want to tackle the issue of the illegal market as well, because this is an issue that we see at the moment in the Netherlands, that even though it is legal to use, it's not officially legal to produce, which brings in itself also multiple problems, such as strengthening the black market, which we want to avoid. And this is why we are we're looking into the details of the legalization of the recreational use, because from the production to the consumer, because this would enable us to protect consumers, especially young people, but all consumers, as well as ensure that the black market is being dried out and eradicated, which has implication not just for here in Europe, but also all across the world. And this is a good combination that comes at the same time when we're talking about the question of freedom in the end, right? Why are people free to drive as fast as they want with their car on the German Autobahn, but freedom ends as soon as they want to consume a product for their own sake? Why do other drugs are legalized that are more harmful, or at least as harmful, and cannabis not? Why do adults not have the power to decide over their own body? And in the end, this comes all with the price that we pay as society with our young people, young people's health, with the fact of criminalization, and with the fact of a worse healthcare situation for the majority of consumers. We want to end this up and therefore bring together all these various aspects that speak in favor of a legalization, and bring this into the political debate in multiple member states in order to make it a reality all over Europe.
At the beginning, there are 5 groups involved in forming group. 5 of the 7 European islands. It covers a massive amount of the European population. Agreement across so many groups. In preparation for this event, we asked the European Parliament Research Service to do a study to look at the current situation around the European Union. So we're going to go over now to the European Parliament Research Service, just to let people know that who are watching, if they have any questions, they can contact us through Twitter and through the link here, and we'll endeavour to answer those questions as we go along. So we'll go over now, if you're ready, to the European Parliamentary Research Service. We're running short on time, unfortunately, because of the delay. So if there's any way you can get it done in 25 minutes, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let me first of all thank you for inviting us to the event and making it possible to disseminate our paper and share with you our insights on the situation regarding recreational use of cannabis across the EU. My name is Piotr Bąkowski. I come from the European Parliament Research Service, which is a DG providing balanced and objective analysis and information for members of Parliament. Now, when describing the study, I will follow the structure and just, going one by one, section by section, I'll try to present to you the major elements that we have found. So the study is basically divided, or the paper that we've produced is basically divided into two parts, the general part and the specific part which concerns individual member states, the situation regarding decriminalization, legalization in individual member states. So the element we start with is some explanation on the concept, because I think there's never enough of that. Many of you are definitely familiar with differences when it comes to policy change between decriminalization, depenalization, legalization, or regulation. But there's a lot of misunderstandings about that, and those terms are often used interchangeably. Even if you talk about legalization alone, the extent of which may be different, because you may legalize or permit the activities such as cultivation or possession, personal use. But it can also extend to the distribution part, and the detailed regulation may also concern those aspects. As we go along with in the paper, we move on to presenting the situation under European law. So the EU competence in the area of drugs is limited. Definitely, it's defined in the one hand, or it has to take into account. On one hand, the international context, the UN conventions in place, and then the national part, national drug laws and policies in an area which is strongly national still at that point. From that point, we move indeed to the international context and present the prohibitive system that has been created at the UN level, composed basically of 3 complementary UN conventions, which limits the possibilities of use of cannabis to medical and scientific purposes. And now the second part of the paper concerns national policies. We have selected 13 member states, and we do not claim it's a representative sample because, well, in general, can you have at all a representative sample in an area where histories of national policies and approaches and the attitudes taken differ so much. Still, we tried to have some kind of geographical diversity, as well as diversity in terms of the overall approach, being either more criminal policy oriented or more public health oriented. What we found out is that across the EU, there are different approaches to the actual conduct which is prohibited. So you will have some member states that prohibit the use. You will have some that prohibit possession, including possession for personal use. In some, both forms of activity will be prohibited. By use, I mean consumption of cannabis or other drugs, because basically the approach might be the same for cannabis or other drugs, or there may be specific regulations concerning cannabis. In those member states where the laws are the same for various forms of various kinds of drugs, it may still happen that at lower level, I mean, police instructions for police or guidelines, there may be a difference in the way cannabis is treated and other substances are. When it comes to the consequences at this point in time, prohibition is quite widespread, and it may entail prison sentences. In some countries, it is no longer possible to go to prison. There are different penalties, such as fines. How do you define personal use? There is normally a reference to some kind of quantity until which a certain threshold, until which possession or may be considered as being for personal use, which may be defined by law. But in some cases, the law references to it are actually very general. So the law talks about, certain small quantities or small amounts, or it refers to minor cases without defining what it actually is. In these cases, it is normally judicial practice that defines that, case law. And when you looked at case law, we saw member states in which you have Supreme Court or Constitutional Court decisions on the issues. In some member states, it's much more complicated. It's to an extent case by case situations. When it comes to quantities, specific quantities, we've seen actually that it's very different from member states. It really starts from quantities which are less than 1 gram through several grams, tens of grams. So it's very, very, very different on that point. Some member states have moved towards alternatives to punishment. And indeed, when you talk about the EU policy, this is one element that is being promoted through the EU strategy on drugs and action plan on drugs, which is basically replacing punishment with alternatives such as treatment. To give you one example of that, in one of the member states, if you receive a suspended sentence, it is possible that you go to treatment, and when the treatment is over, the sentence the execution of the sentence may be in that case, may happen or may not happen. The same thing for non-suspended execution. There are cases where before actually serving a sentence, the person is sent for treatment, and it is decided at the end whether the sentence will be executed or not. When it comes to cultivation, well, I mentioned, limits for possession typically a certain quantity in terms of the THC or the weight of cannabis. When it comes to cultivation, it's normally in the number of plants tolerated until a certain number, 3, 5. Beyond that, prohibited or not tolerated also in practice anymore. Now, we have also looked in trends, how national laws and policies have changed throughout time. We took as a starting point the data provided by the EMCDDA, the European Monitoring Center for Drugs and Drugs Addiction. Apparently still in Europe, as many as almost 80% of drug-related offenses concern actually use and possession for personal use. And over 560,000 cases concern cannabis. So the vast majority of those is actually about cannabis use or possession. There is a trend that has been identified by the EMCDDA since more or less 10,000 of penalties becoming, the laws and practice becoming softer on that point. Well, in particular, when it comes to incarceration, so less likely to go to jail for cannabis-related, cannabis possession or use-related offenses. So we, in our paper, try to go a little bit deeper into that and understand that trend, see if it's similar for member states or if there are major differences in that respect. And it was very interesting, actually, because we looked into public debates, and there have been debates at various points in times in various member states with various outcomes, actually. In some cases, a public debate has led to a policy change. In others, there was no momentum for that. So basically, the laws have not have changed. The public support for one or other solution did not translate into any specific initiative. You will not find information on public opinion polls in our paper, just because we thought they're not comparable. We had serious doubts about the bias issue, the size of the samples that were there, which were in many cases too small, basically, to take such studies or opinion polls seriously. In any case, they're very difficult to compare. So the only one that we refer to is the Eurobarometer that was done in February 2020. in which the majority of citizens or people participating in the poll spoke in favor of regulating cannabis. And by that I mean medical and recreational, or one or the other, rather than sustaining a ban on the substance. Now, as you know, and that's the main topic today, in some member states, steps have been taken that could potentially lead to legalization. Also legalization extending to the distribution and the sales part. It was very, very interesting to have a closer look at that, because what we figured out is that member states really look towards each other, trying to see, what the policy initiatives are, how far other member states, their neighbors in some cases, are willing to go, and what kind of legal avenues they have chosen to solve the issue of potential lack of compliance with international law. So these are the basic elements. As you see, our study just goes through the basics of it and try to kind of set the debate or provide tools for anyone to understand it. And I hope, our paper will serve that purpose. I hope it will be helpful to you, and I hope it will facilitate today's debate as well as a broader debate at the European Parliament or the European Union level. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks very much. That's an interesting overview of what's going on. I don't know, do either of the two MEPs here, do you want to comment on, I'm sorry, the three MEPs that are here, would you like to comment on it maybe? Miklas, do you want to say anything to that, or do you want to wait until later?
Maybe let's give the space to the others.
Okay, all right. That's good. Okay, Nicholas. Okay, then we're going to move on to our first panel, which is titled Countries Considering Legalization. And we have speakers from Czechia, we have a recorded speech from Germany, and we have a speaker from Ireland. And on this panel, we're basically going to have speakers from countries that are at various different stages along the road to legalisation. In Czechia, it's very well developed. It looks like it's going to be happening very soon, and we'll get the detail on that. Likewise with Germany. And in the case of Ireland, we have Gino Kenny, an independent member of Parliament. He has a bill put together and he's waiting for it to be chosen in the Irish Parliament, upon which point it will be debated, and hopefully we'll see some progress. And also in Ireland, we currently have we're having a debate on the decriminalisation, or a debate on all drugs at the moment. We have a citizens' assembly, so there's a lot of discussion going on about it. And for me, someone who's been involved in this for the last 25 years, this event is, for me, it's an opportunity to give hope to a lot of people around the European Union who up until now have been deemed criminals and have been criminalised for using cannabis. And after many years of talk about it and many years of looking at what's happening in the United States of America and seeing gradual progress, I think there certainly is light at the end of the tunnel for people who use cannabis within the European Union. And the first speaker I'm going to introduce is from Czechia. Their name is Thomas Sadilek. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly. They're an expert on drug policy. They have been directly involved in the whole process of getting cannabis legalised in Czechia. So we will go over to them now and we'll hear what they have to say. Are we having problems connecting to that speaker? Yeah, look, we're going to go to the Czech speaker second. So what we're going to do first is we're going to video message from Kirsten Kappert-Gunther, member of the Health Committee of the German Bundestag. She's a member of the Green Party. So we'll go over to that now, and then we'll come back to Thomas Sadilek after that.
Dear colleagues, thank you.